Next on Newsmax Prime, a close encounter of the dangerous kind on our southern border between a Mexican drug gang and our Border Patrol. Congressman Blake Farenthold has an update. Then, Jeb Bush shakes up his campaign staff before he even officially opens that presidential campaign. Michael Reagan reflects on what just happened and what's to come. Plus, scientists say they've uncovered the secret to happiness, but you may not find it all that shocking. Newsmax Prime for Tuesday, June 9th starts now. Good evening and welcome into Newsmax Prime. I'm J.D. Hayworth. Of prime interest tonight, two stories detailing the crisis at our border. Border Patrol agents tell Breitbart.com that the number of unaccompanied minors and partial families coming across that southern border is on the rise again. As many as 70 people counted in just 1 hour recently. Meantime, the investigation continues into that Border Patrol helicopter that took fire from criminal gangs in Mexico, with two members of Congress going down to assess the situation personally. You see one of the men, Congressman Jason Chaffetz, standing next to the heroic pilot who landed that chopper safely. Miranda Khan has the latest from our newsroom. Miranda?
JD, Congressman Jason Chaffetz shared some truly miraculous details after his visit with Congressman Blake Farenthold. As we now know, one of the bullets fired ended up in the cockpit. Chaffetz posted the following on Instagram: with Homeland Security pilot whose helicopter was shot twice Friday. Bullet hit a vest on the seat, saving his life. Another bullet hit the blade. Those details show just how close this incident was to turning deadly, as the pilot, reportedly a military veteran of Afghanistan and Iraq, according to media reports, landed safely in an industrial park in Laredo. The area near where the incident happened is reportedly well known to authorities as being used for smuggling and drug trafficking. Now, this isn't the first time the Border Patrol has been fired on near Mexico. You may recall we told you last month of another cross-border incident when, according to a Judicial Watch report, a Mexican government helicopter shot at Border Patrol agents back in June of 2014. Meanwhile, several members of the House Oversight Subcommittee on Border Security sent a letter questioning whether the State Department was taking the cartel violence seriously enough. We'll, of course, keep you posted on any new developments. JD?
Thanks, Miranda. For more on the story, we're pleased to be joined by one of those two members of Congress who went to the border for a first-hand account yesterday. That would be Congressman Blake Farenthold of Texas, Skyping in from Capitol Hill. Blake, it's good to have you on Newsmax Prime.
Great to be with you.
Now, Blake, before we get to the goings-on the border, some reports this afternoon that the White House briefing room and several Senate hearing rooms on Capitol Hill were evacuated. Apparently, a bomb threat was phoned in. Have you heard anything about that?
Well, they've cleared a couple of suspicious packages at the Senate, and there was a disruption I was seeing on the television in the White House briefing room, but I do not have the details on that. We only get email messages about security threats on Capitol Hill.
Well, we appreciate the fact that you are still hard at work on the House side, and you were hard at work yesterday down on the border, and that has been our story of prime interest tonight. There you were down on the border to assess the safety and security, especially in the wake of that Border Patrol helicopter taking fire from Mexico. What did you find out yesterday, Blake?
Well, two shots hit the helicopter. One hit the rotor. One went in the side door and went along the side of one of the Kevlar vests an agent was wearing. The initial indications are the shot came from the Mexican side of the river. The FBI, Border Patrol, Texas Rangers, and Mexican government are all investigating right now.
And so what you were able to see, and we see the tweet from Jason Chaffetz, the committee chair who accompanied you yesterday, but I want to make sure I have this straight. Not only was the helicopter hit, but a bullet actually glanced off the Kevlar of one of our Border Patrol agents who was airborne in that chopper?
One of the shots went through the door, and they're saying that it's fortunate it didn't take a direct hit, but as I understand it, it skirted along, basically along the side of the Kevlar.
So there is that pilot, someone who is flying now on our own borders. I understand his past flight history. He flew in combat zones like Afghanistan and Iraq. Blake, I know it's literally close to home for you in your congressional district, but has our southern border become a battle zone, a combat zone?
Well, this is unusual. It's of concern because a Mexican government helicopter was shot down near Guadalajara a couple of weeks ago with an RPG. And then in about a month, you have this attack on the border, which is really actually unusual. The Mexican drug cartels, from what I'm told by Border Patrol agents, don't want this kind of attention because the obvious response is a crackdown by the government. And that's what we need to do. We need a crackdown so they know it's not okay to shoot at our agents. But the cartels don't want this because it's bad for their business. It makes it more difficult for them to smuggle drugs and people in, which is why this is so unusual.
Well, you know, you mentioned that concern of the cartels, and one of the groups affiliated with the cartels, Los Zetas, the guys who used to be basically Mexican special forces who went to work for the dark side, if you will. I heard a story during my days in Congress that an FBI agent dispatched to one of the cities on our southern border got a call on his personal cell phone from someone who identified himself as the local head of Los Zetas, saying to that FBI agent, listen, if you've heard talk that we want to rub you out, that's wrong. We don't do things that way, but we know who's spreading that rumor, and if you'd like, we'll take them out. Now, if that was going on a half decade ago in terms of psychological warfare, how much more difficult is it for the Border Patrol and FBI to deal with groups like Los Zetas?
Well, what's interesting is that on the Mexican side of the border, several of the higher-ups in the Zetas have been arrested. So there's potentially a power struggle going on within the Zetas organization, which could be one of the reasons for this, somebody trying to prove their mantle or do something. So that obviously is one potential theory of what's going on. You know, even more ominous, there's again, we could speculate all the time about what's going on. Was there a high-value smuggling group that this was tracking that they had to get them off of? Was this somebody not affiliated with the Zetas? There are competing cartels that want to do the Zetas harm. So you increase the pressure on the Zeta areas, and maybe something opens up for something for the Gulf cartel. So you've got multiple players on the Mexican side and lots of things happening within the cartels as both the American and the Mexican side step up enforcement.
Now, Blake, another story from Breitbart News we want to get to with the minute that remains. Breitbart reporting another surge of illegals is underway. 70 people, including women and children, seen crossing our southern border in 1 hour alone. Have you heard those same reports?
I've seen those reports. I asked in Laredo, and they said they haven't seen the uptick that they saw last year, but it's just getting into the season where that happens. I'm optimistic that the new family detention center built in Pearsall, Texas, word has gotten out about that, and the families coming across aren't going to be let free immediately. Hopefully that'll stem the tide, but no, I do see more coming. I fly out of Corpus Christi, and sometimes those unaccompanied children are on the plane with me. I hadn't seen any for about 8 months, and then about a month ago, I started to see some kids being transported again.
Well, Blake, we appreciate your update and appreciate all your efforts along the border. And of course, we thank you very much for your time. Now, we want to hear from you. You can send your comments via email to Newsmax Prime at newsmaxtv.com. There's also Facebook. Please don't forget Twitter, and also use our website, newsmaxtv.com/comments. Still to come, a follow-up on that pool party that led to police protests in Texas. Liz Peek and David Goodfriend weigh in. Then, the devil is in the details. Dr. Richard Land on that new Fox Network TV show, which has family groups up in arms. And talking about being up in arms, that's how many Republicans feel about Hillary Clinton's comments on voting rights. But first, political commentator Michael Reagan discusses the latest on Dennis Hastert. All that and more when Newsmax Prime continues.